So imagine almost $500,000 a year for the rest of your life, even after retirement. There's a county in California now said to be rewarding its top government administrator with a $423,000 annual salary. The San Francisco Chronicle says that the Alameda County official's base salary is $301,000. All right, she then receives $24,000 in equity pay to guarantee that she makes more than anyone else in the county. $54,000 in longevity pay for having worked there for 30 years. An annual performance bonus of $24,000, $9,000 for work on a 3-member land committee, and $8,300 for her car allowance. Here's the kicker. When retirement comes, she'll still be receiving more than $400,000 a year. Melissa Francis with me now, the host of Money. It's all about your money on the Fox Business Network every night at 5 o'clock. And Stephen Moore, also writer for the Wall Street Journal, with us today down there in Washington, D.C. Stephen, good morning to you as well.
Great to be with you.
We're going to start with the ladies, Stephen. I hope that's okay with you, all right? Melissa,
first.
Make sense of this. If there is a way to make sense.
Oh, my goodness. You should have started with Steve, because there is no way to make sense of this. I mean, longevity pay, can you imagine? $54,000, can you imagine a reward for being in the job for so long? I mean, these are astounding numbers, and if you add it up and she has the average lifespan, because as you said, this is guaranteed for life. Wouldn't you love that? If you add it up, it's more than $9 million. If she, additionally, if she lives the average lifetime, it's just astounding. And nowhere in any of this literature or any of the reports on this is there anything that justifies, I mean, her salary. Is she a tremendous, revenue center for the county of Alameda? Are they the most profitable county in all of California, making money hand over fist somehow? No.
And how do you do that in retirement?
Yeah. It's
Stephen,
amazing.
You've been out to California, right? You've been writing and reporting on the various problems, not just in the counties, but in the cities. How does this strike you?
Well, first of all, I thought it was interesting, $24,000 for equity pay, so that she's the highest paid person in the county.
How about $8,300
Melissa, what's that all about? How do we get one of those?
for car allowance.
And look, I think the average person who's watching the show, it just rolls their eyes and say, how can a county executive get a $400,000 pension? That is almost unheard of in the private sector. And Bill, you asked the question about how this relates to the overall situation in California. As you know, Melissa's been covering this a lot. I mean, these cities across the state of California are very near bankruptcy. Some of them, Bill, are already virtually in bankruptcy. Places like San Bernardino, places like Vallejo. And when I talk to the city officials, the county managers there, what they tell me, Bill, is the single biggest problem in terms of trying to match their expenditures with their receipts and their tax receipts is the fact that these fat pensions that you've got, a huge amount of the budgets now, as much as a third to a half of the budgets in these cities are for these enormously obese pensions that they can't afford.
Melissa, when I think about what Jerry Brown has been trying to do to a degree, does this change any of that policy?
All that can happen, I think, is a taxpayer revolt, because in these situations, these county administrators and officials of every type, and Steve was talking about all the different county Stocktons in the same boat, where they sit there and they have voted themselves these tremendous pensions, or whether it's health care allowances for the rest of their lives, and no one was there to sort of stop it. But when you set the politics aside, it's about the math, and there's actually, at the end of the day, no way to pay this over time. So invariably,
Melissa, the good news about this story, if there is any silver lining here, is you're exactly right. The only way you stop this is with taxpayers. And you know what? Bill, there are several instances where taxpayers have voted on the ballot to put a clamp on these out-of-control pensions. So there is some movement in the right direction here, where people say, look, we want the money to go for schools, not pensions.
Understood. Is there anything in California that addresses perhaps renegotiating these contracts?
Bankruptcy. I mean, that's what keeps happening again and again, is that the only way to deal with this and to break these contracts is eventually to go into bankruptcy when the county can't pay for it. But this is one of the most egregious examples, and it's good to hear reporting on it. I mean, kudos to the San Francisco Chronicle, I think it was, who started the outrage against this, because a lot of times, I think a lot of people all around the country are living in counties where things like this are happening, and they just don't realize it. And this is where your property tax dollars are going.
That's right.
Instead of into the actual classroom to buy supplies and crayons and everything else for the kids, they're going to these very fat packages that are, I mean, equity pay. That's like most, you see that in entertainment. You know, it's the most favored nations clause to make sure this person is being paid more than anyone else. How could that possibly exist in government?
Gig if you can get it.
It's amazing.
Stephen Moore, last word. What do we need to understand about what happens now to change it?
Well, it's not just California. That's the other piece of bad news here. This is happening in Illinois, it's happening in New York, it's happening in Connecticut, and it really gets to the basic issue of fairness, whether public employees should get pensions that are about twice as generous as what the taxpayers are getting in their private sector jobs.
Thank you, Stephen. Stephen Moore out of Washington Wall Street Journal. Melissa Francis, host of Money.
5 o'clock, check it out.
5 o'clock, check it out.
It's all about money.